is Karin Monster, psychologist, life coach, parenting coach, energy worker, highly sensitive person, mother of 3, wife to 1, and so much more. Well, I think I'm live. I think the connection was a little bit fuzzy, I think. And now it says I'm on. So this is my first Facebook live session. And it's going to be this is the first of the 8 live sessions that I'm going to be doing around high sensitivity. So this one is going to be about what high sensitivity is and why it matters to define it clearly. So I'm going to dive into that right away, but first a little bit about my own coming to terms with my own sensitivity, because it has been a big process. The first few years, when the term came out, when Aaron's book came out, I had the book, I put it in my bookcase, and I never looked back, because I saw a lot of people around me who were hiding behind their highly sensitivity, and they were becoming very much the victim. I was not happy with that. I'm a very positive person, and I'm always looking at ways I can cope, and I'm always looking at ways I can empower my clients into becoming more empowered in their own sensitive selves. So I was not very happy with the term because it was being used wrongly. Of course, I was also very much happy with my sensitive self. I had my own very nice sensitive tribe of sensitive friends who were all a little bit weird, and nobody really cared if I called them every day. We met up when we felt like it. It was always okay. So I didn't really feel the need for this label in my system. But I had been working with the gifted for a long time already. And the main characteristic of the gifted that most parents talk about is their intensity, their sensitivity. And I realized that every child and every parent in my practice was highly sensitive, and that I actually was highly sensitive myself. So I dove into Aaron's book, and it felt like a huge homecoming to me. When I read Aaron's book, I was like, I was so relieved. Okay, wait a minute, all these things, I'm right. Okay, I'm not weird. It's there, it's happening. And Aaron's book has created the same feeling for many people around the world. When they read her book, they felt normal. Within their sensitivity, they felt normal. And that was just an amazing contribution for the highly sensitive world, because it's nothing new. Being highly sensitive is nothing new. We've always been there, we've always been here, but the last 10-20 years, our societies have changed so dramatically. Internet, smartphones, bleeps all the time. Everywhere we go, we're getting so much input that the highly sensitive people have developed a few more problems. First, we could cope better, and now it has become more challenging for us. So it's not like we've just kind of like suddenly emerged and here we are. We've always been here, and it's really good to realize that as well. So the definition of high sensitivity, I'm going to start first with defining the need to make it very clear what high sensitivity is. High sensitivity is the term created by Aaron for sensory processing sensitivity. That is more the term that researchers use when they're working with it. So, Aaron posted a few months ago on her blog, just before she left for her sabbatical, a few guidelines for self-care, and one of them really caught my attention. It was the last one, and I'm going to quote her because it defines perfectly why it's so necessary to make it very clear what we're talking about. She says, "For the sake of you and all other highly sensitive persons, please do not associate high sensitivity with being an empath or anything that could sound weird to those we want to reach. Do not condone it in others. Seriously, such writing and talk is beginning to endanger the credibility of the research, at least in Scandinavia. Watch for highly sensitive people being called empaths or highly sensitive empaths, or statements about highly sensitive people being psychics or having ESP. It has been growing steadily, as you will see if you check the internet. Those who train doctors, teachers, therapists, and all the rest will not make use of any information about high sensitivity if it seems unscientific. This is not about what you believe to be true. Think what you wish about it in private. Maybe it interests you or you recognize something about yourself in this material, but think about what it means for our future and the future of sensitive children." Yes, we're talking about the things we know to be true. What has been researched, what has been done. I mean, there's a lot of information out there, and my scientific brain loves facts and numbers. Oh, I mean, I really get a kick out of it, even if there's things that I've known always, and when I see numbers coupled to it, I'm like, oh yes, thank you, and I'm really happy. And that's what's been going on. The last couple of years, there's a lot of research going on highly sensitive people or sensory processing sensitivity. So a couple of years ago, Professor Elke van Hoof from the University of Brussels, she teamed up with Karin, and they're working together to validate her the test, the highly sensitive people test, and also validate her research on high sensitivity. So it's huge. 1,500 adults have contributed to this research already. And at the University of Leuven, her name is Patricia Bijtebier, who's also a professor there. She is doing the same thing for the highly sensitive children test. And she is 800 children have already participated for this research, for this validation of the highly sensitive children test as well. At this moment, the research is being processed and a book is being written, and this morning, I got the invitation for the presentation of the book at the University of Brussels. It's going to be October 12th, and I can't wait to get my hands on that book and just go through it and see all those nice little facts and to share it with you. So the information I'm giving you right now is the information that I have and at this moment, and that we at this moment know to be true. So that is what I'm sharing right now. So let's see. Oh yeah, I will expand on Aaron's statement on not, getting clear on the definition. So I'm going to start out with first saying what highly sensitivity is not, which is a little bit, well, you'll get why. So it is not a diagnosis, and it is not a disorder. It is just not. You will not find it in the DSM. You will just, it's a trait. So not a disorder, can be treated. So, okay, it is not sensory processing disorder. I've seen many people talk about sensory processing sensitivity and sensory processing disorder as if it was the same thing, and it's just not. So you will notice that one is a disorder, and by it being a disorder, it can be treated through therapy, and a lot of improvements can be made. So I mean, you can learn to cope with being highly sensitive, but it's not something that needs to be treated. And that's just so important to get clear. We're not crazy. There's nothing to treat, okay? But I must say, some highly sensitive children have sensory processing disorder, but not all children with sensory processing disorder are highly sensitive as well. It's also good to know. So, as Karin stated, it is not the same as being an empath. Huh? It is also not the same as being a sensitive. So, Peter Messerschmidt, who writes a lot of great blogs and articles on high sensitivity, who's really in tune into Karin's work. So if you want to learn more, check out his blogs. He's amazing. He sums this up very nicely. He says, some highly sensitive people are empaths and sensitives, and many empaths are highly sensitive. But being a highly sensitive person does not make you an empath. And being an empath does not mean you're automatically a highly sensitive person. None, one, some, or all above can all be true. So, he also says, ultimately, I believe most of it has to do with simply mislabeling heightened awareness of people's mood as being an empath. Perhaps as a result of not fully understanding what an empath actually is. Perhaps this is not so surprising, as most highly sensitive people have a much above average ability to feel empathy for others, and the journey from feeling empathy to being an empath is pretty short, in most people's heads anyway. In addition, many highly sensitive people describe their experience of life by saying, I feel everything, and it's not a stretch from that thought to believing one is an empath. So that kind of sums it up. Not every high, and again, if we're talking about facts and numbers, I do not know if these statistics are backed by research, but I've read that true empaths are about 2 to 3% of the population, and highly sensitive people, it's 20%. So it just doesn't sum up. So what else is not highly sensitive? So let's see. Not all highly sensitive people are gifted, but it does seem that most gifted are highly sensitive. Again, statistics, 20% are highly sensitive, 2 to 3%, depending on the definition, are gifted. And a lot of the work on giftedness the last few years are really defining giftedness in the terms of Dabrowski's theory of the overexcitabilities, and we're talking about intensity on different domains. So if we are talking about intensity, then we're really saying that most gifted are highly sensitive. I'm not going to say all, but most. Not all highly sensitive people are introverts. Also very good to know. It seems that everybody thinks we're all introverts. I'm an introvert, yes, but 30% of the highly sensitive are actually extrovert. They're extroverted people. They enjoy going outside, they're very talkative, they enjoy meeting new people, and are not introverted in that way, in ways of how you like to have social contacts, and if you get enough energy from your social engagements. Again, those highly sensitive extroverts do need the alone time to recuperate. That is so typical of the highly sensitive as well. So they do like to go out, but they do really enjoy being also on themselves, and do experience over-arousal when they do it too much. So that's also good to know. Not all highly sensitive people avoid stimulation. And I'm not talking about just the extroverts. You can be an introvert and still like stimulation. And that would make you usually a sensation seeker. I'm a sensation seeker. I like to do things. I like to challenge myself. I'm always busy with something. I do not know what it is to do nothing. But then I also do need my quiet time, and I'm very strict about that. I need it. I need it. Otherwise, it feels that I'm going to crash and burn. So a sensation seeker can also be combined with highly sensitive person. And just one more that was brought to my attention by Professor Elke van Hoof when I went to her lecture last January during a congress on high sensitivity. And I thought this was really an interesting one because I think it also happens a lot. And a lot of people are identifying as highly sensitive when they were never born highly sensitive. So I'm talking about people who have become sensitive because of trauma. So in their youth, in their adulthood, doesn't matter. People who have become sensitive because of trauma, and they were not born this way. So I'm talking about people with really weird problems and who will get a diagnosis, but actually were not born that way. So that's also a very good distinction to make. So, that having been said, what is high sensitivity? Well, again, I said Karin was the first person who described sensory processing sensitivity as the highly sensitive person. And she did a great job on that. Her books have been published in, I think, every language, and a lot of people have felt a homecoming when they read her book, and we're really glad that she's done this for the highly sensitive community. But she was not the first one to talk about sensitive people, and we have there's literature that goes back to 1935, and by a German psychologist describes highly sensitive people and describes them really well. It's great book. In 1975, there's also a really great book, also a German psychologist, and he's talking about also about the sensitive person and why the sensitive person is struggling in society right now. And he's actually saying that in 1975, 1976, the reason that there's so much psychopathology under the sensitive right now is because of all the stimuli in society. And we're talking about 1975. Can you imagine how challenging it is right now with everything that's going on right now in the world? It's staggering that already in 1975 people are already experiencing problem because of everything that's going on. Good. Well, Karin was the first to really talk about it and describe it well and reach a big public. And her research and her tests have inspired a lot of research in the world. Brain research, brain studies have been done. I talked already about Elke van Hoof, who's already validating all the tests that Karin has created. But it's interesting to know that there are a lot of reasons. This trait, which is innate, we're born with it, you're born this way, is found in around approximately 20% of the population, in every population, in every society, and in over 100 species, which is so interesting. I'm talking about flies and fish, which have been studied. And this trait has been found in them as well. I mean, it seems that we do have like some kind of role in society that we need to fulfill. And we've been there all along, but now it's being described. And the main characteristic of this trait is the depth of processing. Karin states 3 more, but I know already, because of the lecture that I went to in January, that the research has found within the test, within the validation, within all the interviews in 1,500 adults, that the main characteristic is the death of processing, and that really is, we're talking about our brain. Really, also in brain research, our brain lights up on a lot of areas at the same time when we see stimuli where it shouldn't be lighting up. It seems like we're missing some kind of filter for the information coming into our brain. Also very interesting, we're not filtering anything, so it just comes in, it just gets stuck somewhere in our body if we're not really channeling it or grounding ourselves or doing something with that. So that's really interesting to know that that it's that main characteristic that really defines the highly sensitive, because it kind of like plays out into everything else. Because we feel so deeply, our emotions are intense. Because we feel so deeply, we get sensory sensitivities, the touch, to ear, even our sight can be more heightened. What else? Over-arousal. Of course, if everything, we have no filters in our brain and everything is just coming in and we're receiving and receiving, of course we get into a state of over-arousal much quicker than somebody who does have a filter. And everything else just kind of like gets into that same depth. We're going to, we have this deepness inside of us, and everything is deep. So that is what high sensitivity is, people. This research is clearly showing us, all this research, brain research, psychological research, interviews, people really trying to create awareness and knowledge about this, and it's showing us that it is real. It's there. We are not just crazy. We are not manic depressive, something that I told myself a few times in my life. We are just really, it's real. We're not too sensitive. It's there. It's happening. And it's very important to spread the knowledge about high sensitivity in schools, at your workplace, because many people do experience a lot of challenges. We are sensitive. The trait itself is not problematic, but it does come with its own challenges, especially when one is not aware and have not developed effective coping strategies to help you succeed in life. So I hope you have found this very helpful, and I encourage you to spread this knowledge wherever you are. I'm going to post this on my Facebook page, and I'm going to post it on YouTube. And if you can share it with your school, if you can share it with your boss, and maybe create some awareness about high sensitivity, then life could be much simpler for you as well. I hope I've been clear. If something was not clear, please feel free to comment on that, and I will expand on it on another Facebook Live session. If something really resonated with you, if I said something that really touched you or whatever, please reach out as well. I hope you guys stay tuned and enjoyed it, and tune in for my next Facebook Live. It's going to be in 2 weeks, because I'm going away with my husband next week on a small vacation, just the two of us. And so next week there is no session. Week after that there is a session, and I will be talking more about the challenges that highly sensitive adults face on a day-to-day basis, and what you can do about that. So I hope you enjoyed it, and bye.